And welcome into the Wednesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar, here with you on this Wednesday morning. Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
We're doing okay. I see John Hines got a big dub last night.
He did.
We always talk about all the players who used to be here who are doing well in the postseason for other teams, fanned out around the league. But let's not forget the Heinster. 1-1.
The grinder last night. Get outshot 32-17, but they put up 5 goals. 5 goals on 17 shots.
That's pretty good.
You'll take that percentage
there. Yeah.
You will take that percentage. Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing great. Yeah, some good hockey last night.
That's a couple nights in a row. Pretty good hockey. Pretty good hockey going on out
here. You're lightning, though.
Off to a solid start.
Off to a good start.
Florida
did not go well. Well, I know it's stunning when Florida has their full lineup. They look pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my Lightning pick right now. It's one game, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at my Lightning pick right now, and I'm going, I don't know if that was the brightest call by me.
Florida's pretty freaking good.
Florida's pretty good. It turns out that when you make a Stanley Cup final a couple years in a row and you win one, might be pretty good. So we'll see what that looks like in the Stanley Cup playoff. Hey, man, Leafs Nation going crazy up there. They're up 2-0 in the first round.
Hey, I picked them to win it.
You did.
The Leafs are winning the whole freaking thing, man. 58 years later. 58 years later.
I will say
the whole thing.
They got pretty good balance this year, which has not always been the case with them. So we'll see what that looks like. Good stuff from the Grizzlies last night. Grizzlies really showing up and playing well in the first round against Oklahoma City.
Now they did look like they actually belonged in a playoff series. They had it down to 9 in the fourth. What was the final, 20 something?
So, yeah, 19, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 30-point progress, man. What do you want? They made progress by more than 30 points from the last game. That's
they did lose by less than 100 in this game, so that's good.
Yeah, if they keep doing that, they might win a game.
They might. We'll see what happens. But they're down 0-2 against Oklahoma City, and look, they may. Who knows? They may come back home and win a game. That one's over. So enjoy your off-season, Memphis, and we'll see what the future looks like for John Morant there.
Pretty much.
So speculation of they may trade him this offseason. We'll see.
That's wild.
I think he's got 1 year left on his deal.
That's wild, but he's still really good, and at times you see the player he was a couple years ago, but you just don't see it all the time. And so I wonder what that means.
Well, and also like having conversations with him like, hey, are you going to re-sign here? Because if you're not,
sure,
we'll see you. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll wait to talk about that as when they're actually eliminated, but not looking great for the Grizzlies to this point.
Yeah, man. You think about how it looked again before all the stuff, and it was like that's a place where you're going to get guys to come there to play with him, and now everything's up in the air. You feel bad for Grizzlies fans.
We'll see what happens on that front. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. The Titans brass spoke yesterday in their pre-draft press conference. Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan available to the media yesterday. They spoke for, I don't know, a little bit over 30 minutes yesterday and took basically every different version of Cam Ward question without actually saying, hey, we're coming out and drafting Cam Ward that you could take. But a couple of really interesting news items from that press conference yesterday. Mike Borgonzi was asked from Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com about whether or not they've made a decision and what they're doing at number 1 overall. Here's what Mike Borgonzi had to say yesterday.
2 days out, is it safe to say you know who you're picking at 1? And if so, what would it take to maybe change your mind at this point?
Yeah, no, we've come to a consensus. The entire organization is to stay at that pick, and I guess you'll find out Thursday night who we pick.
So they have come to a consensus. The entire organization, they're staying at number 1. They have made their decision as to who they're drafting. We all know it's Cam Ward, but they have made their decision. I found it interesting that Jim Wyatt is the one that asked that question.
Hey, Jimmy, I told you it's Cam Ward at the lunch meeting today. What are you asking me this question for?
We're taking a quarterback.
Got to really work on our Borgonzis. It's basically kind of like Mayor Quimby from The Simpsons.
There, Jimmy. We're going to take Cam Ward, and you're going to like it.
I don't. That's not. We got a lot of work to do.
I
on
really
this
need
stuff.
him to be a really good general manager. I need him to be around for a while.
Yeah. No, I respect someone who lives that long in Kansas City and still, it's like he came out, he's like he's riding the train in Southie today, like he never left. I mean, I think that's fantastic.
I do too. So they're staying at number one. They're making the pick. And later in the press conference, Mike Borgonzi was asked about, so, I mean, you say that you've made your decision, you're staying at number one. So are you saying that teams just shouldn't bother calling? Here's what Mike Borgonzi had to say.
I said you know what you're doing with number one and you're not dealing. So with regard to phone calls from other teams, would you say don't bother?
Yes, at this point, yes.
Don't bother. Don't hit me with any phone calls. We are not taking them anymore.
Paul, you don't bother texting me ever again either.
By the way, we'll have PK on the show later. Get into all things Titans with him. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, but that's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the trickling of, Breer and some other people have had some stuff this week that definitely suggests that, like they were listening at one point, but like they were not getting anything good, I mean, that's so Diana Rossini has a story. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but one of the big things is that there are teams that are looking to move up actually in the draft. It's all because of Travis Hunter. He is the reason that teams are looking to move up to try to get him, which to me is smart because he's going to be great. But I think it's kind of like, it seems like it's certainly them sold on Cam Ward, right? But also them realizing, there's just nothing. There's nothing that's good enough to move out of here.
Yeah. Well, and most of the press conference yesterday was about Ward, right? Like it's what have you learned about Ward through the process of getting to know him? They were asked about the moment in Ward's pro day where he rolled to the left, threw the ball, and screamed at the Titans that he was solidifying it today. And just like, the response to that was basically, you got to kind of get to know Cam to kind of know what that is. And I think it was Brinker talking about how he's really confident. He's not cocky, but he's really confident in kind of the line there. But, it was it was funny. There was one point where Callahan, in one of his answers, they made clear to, whoever we take at number one overall, that came up a couple times yesterday. But there was one point, I guess, when Callahan was asked about his Fortnite appearance that we talked about last week. And he's like, talking about knowing his audience. And he like almost caught himself, but didn't quite catch it in the middle of the answer. And he was like, yeah, you guys are going to get to know, it's like, you guys are going to get to know Cam Ward. It's like, yeah, we know, bud. Appreciate
get to know someone TBD.
Yeah, you guys are going to get to know whoever we pick at number one overall. So if you had any doubt heading into yesterday, and maybe there were some who did have some doubt heading into yesterday, I don't think that number was very high. You cannot have doubt now. The Titans are taking Cam Ward number one overall when tomorrow night at 7:00 rolls around.
Yeah. Look, there have been people on the text line who have been holding out hope. Even in recent times about, no, I just don't believe it. I think they're going to trade out and all that stuff. And look, I still think they should have signed a veteran quarterback, and I think that they should have used that number one pick to get themselves as many good football players as possible, as opposed to what they're doing. But this is what they're doing. So it's all in Cam Ward's hands. The fate of Nashville is in Cam Ward's hands.
Well, it's certainly the fate of Nashville. At the very least, I think the fate of the three guys sitting up there yesterday, right? I mean, that's what this is. I mean, very rarely in the NFL, particularly when you're coming into a new place and you're not proven, like this trio is not proven in these jobs. Like very rarely do you get two kicks at the can of like franchise quarterbacks. Like you better hope that this one works.
Yeah, like
especially at number one overall. You better hope it works.
If Brian Callahan is if there's a lean toward someone Borgonzi wants to bring in, and he's truly on like a hot seat here going into a second year, then at some point I think he can get a second chance as a head coach in the NFL. I think that's possible. You have to have a good stint as an OC after that and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean,
I'm just talking here though. Like you're not getting.
Oh, yeah,
two-
for sure.
Like this
For
trio
sure.
is not getting two kicks at the quarterback can here.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, but also, I mean, I think the front office, really, you don't get 2 kicks at all.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah.
I mean, like these guys can join the list, the distinguished list of former GMs who had success. Some of them had success and still don't get another shot. I mean, like we'll see if John Robinson does, for example, at some point. So yeah, like this is like especially front office wise, this is tying a career to a player.
No doubt. But that's what they're doing. I mean, I think they were pretty clear about what direction they're going when tomorrow night rolls around yesterday at the pre-draft press conference. However, there was something that they said multiple times yesterday, Joe, at the press conference that to me does not really add up to what they're doing at number 1 overall. We'll get into that. Coming up next, take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, your reaction to Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, Brian Callahan, and what they had to say yesterday at their pre-draft press conference. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Paul Kuharski from PaulKuharski.com will be with us later in the program. We got a lot to get into with PK one day before the NFL draft, so looking forward to that later in the show. So, Titans made it clear yesterday they're sticking at one. They know who their pick is going to be. They've come to a consensus as an organization, and I think we all know that consensus is going to be Cam Ward coming up. So Cam Ward going to be the next quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Joe, there was one thing that they said multiple times yesterday, and Brinker said this, Borgonzi said this multiple times throughout the course of the press conference, and that was, staying true to the board and making sure that you're going with best player available. And kind of the phrase they used a lot yesterday was, we got a lot of needs on this football team. We very much are aware of how many needs we have on the football team. So because of that, you can't just go reaching for needs all the time because we have so many. So just be disciplined, stay with the best player available, and that should be your approach in the draft, which I like. I like hearing that if I'm a Titans fan. The issue is that what you're doing with the first overall pick? Are you going best player available at number 1 overall? Now, if you pay attention to the draft analysts and the draft experts, and frankly, the reporting around much of the league right now from teams that have their boards, Cam Ward is not the best player available. I mean, that is the general consensus. Matter of fact, we heard from Schefter yesterday. We talked about the piece he put out there that one general manager says he doesn't have a first-round grade on Cam Ward. Now, is that true? Is that somebody just spouting nonsense before the draft? I have no idea. That's one thing you got to be cautious of this time of year when the draft rolls around. But that is a question of mine, is you spent a lot of time yesterday talking about staying true to your board and taking the best player available. Are you really doing that if you go Cam Ward, number 1 overall? That would be my question.
That is a great question. It seems like a contradiction. Now, some would probably say, yeah, but quarterback you just take that out of the equation. It's almost like, in college sports, when you're like Title IX and everything, you take, or any sort of economic thing, take football out of the equation, and then you judge everything and balance it out, right? So in the NFL, quarterback is the thing that's that it gets an exemption. That's what some people would say. But I think you're exactly right. I mean, if you are truly doing that, then you're taking Travis Hunter. You're taking Travis Hunter with the first pick. But of course, you've left yourself to where you can't. I mean, you can, and then you could try to, with 35, you could try to get Tyler Shuck or something like that. But I would still do that over what they're going to do. But this is what they're going to do. Yeah, you're right. It does not add up. Now, it'll be interesting, do they, after the pick is made, is it, actually, he was the top player on our board.
Well, I'm sure that's what they'll say. I'm sure that's what they'll say. The question is, do you believe that? I mean, look, maybe he is
be
for
on
them.
an island.
Maybe he is for them. But I think if he is, then they would be very different from most of the rest of the NFL, right? Maybe all of the rest of the NFL. So is that a good thing? Again, whether Cam Ward is the best player in this draft or not, if Cam Ward, let's say Cam Ward at the end of the draft ends up being the 4th or 5th best player, but he goes on to have a really, really good career at quarterback, then nobody's going to care at the end of this. Nobody's going to say, well, Abdul Carter is a freak show every year and is wrecking quarterbacks left and right, but Cam Ward's getting you to the playoffs every year at the quarterback spot. So, I mean, they're going to, if Cam Ward's good, nobody's really going to care if he's the 5th best player in the draft. But you need him to be really, really good. And I just wonder, if the Titans come out after they draft Cam Ward and say, yeah, he was our best player available, that's great. Is that true? And how different is that from the rest of the league? I would imagine pretty different.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like the media ranking. It's not like the media ranking of the prospects is exactly straight from all of the GMs.
Correct.
And but it is from GM. Like, like it is utilizing what GMs are saying. Again, we've heard a GM here in the league anonymously say that he didn't have Cam Ward as a first-round grade. So that came out this week. I mean, there's certainly people that are done. Wide range of opinions, that happens. Wide range of opinions on a particular player happens. But I think you're right that, if Cam Ward is good, then it doesn't matter as long as you win enough.
Right.
And then also Hunter or Carter. Hunter, I mean, Carter, we'll see. I think he's going to be very good. But like someone else, but it'd be one of those two, Hunter or Carter, doesn't go on to become like gold jacket championship winning.
Right.
Holy crap, we're so lucky we got this guy. Can't believe he didn't go number 1 overall.
Right.
If that's the comparison to a good Cam Ward, then I still think you have a bit of an issue with it, right?
Right. Then we get into what is good, like what does good mean for Cam Ward? I mean, that's what we'll get into there. But
I
would
winning?
agree.
Is he winning? Is he taking, like you said, is he taking you to the playoffs? Are you winning any playoff games?
Right.
And that's what it eventually comes down to.
For sure. And again, maybe the Titans do have him at number 1 on their board. I don't know. Like I just wonder if they do. How different is that from the rest of the league? And frankly, based on the Titans' track record lately, are you worried about that if you're a Titans fan, if they're that much different than the rest of the NFL?
Yeah.
I would be.
I highly, highly doubt they do in reality. And it's just he's got the quarterback, the bump. He's got the bump because he's the most important position. But again, to me, like if he's like 6th or 7th or something like that, I think
then
that's
it's quarterback.
Yeah, I mean that again, you expect some kind of a bump when you have a glaring hole at quarterback, and he's you have the number 1 pick. It's still though, I would like to know. I'd like to know their evaluation, like him compared to like Travis Hunter. Because to me, he's clearly the best player in the draft. And again, as we said earlier, Rossini is reporting, that the people looking to move up, even though it seems like almost everybody here is trying to move down,
right?
The people who are inquiring about moving up are doing so because of Travis Hunter.
Terrell on the text line says they're staying true to their board as far as their rankings. They're probably taking the best player in the group of needs that are available, and Ward is the best in that group. Quarterback's the highest need. I hear that.
Abdul Carter's a need.
But that's not really staying true to your board, right? Like staying true to your board is we have this player ranked as our number 1 available player, regardless of position. And that's our board right there. Yeah. Like I understand they need, but that's kind of what Borgonzi and Brinker were saying yesterday. Like if you want to go through the list of needs on this team, that's a long list right now. Like we all know quarterbacks on it and receiver and edge rusher, but you can go beyond that. Like you can argue with all the Snead stuff going on. Like is corner a need?
I mean, you could argue that their best available with the positions of need would include all positions.
Yeah, like there's
so
a lot of
best
needs
available
that they have right now. So that's what makes it interesting in terms of like how exactly do they have this right? I'm with you. Like if they are truly lining it up and they've got Cam Ward as like their 6th best guy. I mean, okay. At that point, it's like it's a quarterback. I get it. Now, if you're going down the list and you've got Cam Ward as like your 15th best guy, which I think some people in the league do,
or lower,
that's when you start to get into, I don't know. That makes me a little nervous going that way at number 1 overall.
Yeah. And again, also like wherever he is, whoever like, if you do have Hunter at the top, like how highly do you have him rated? Maybe they don't think he's this, franchise changing player like some people do, So again, that's probably part of it too. That would, to me, would be part of it. Because if you did, like if you thought that, again, going back before free agency, that's when you get a veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
And you either take him, or you prepare to take him if you can't trade out, or ideally you do trade out.
Chris on the text line, I think still in a little bit of denial, says there's no way they're taking Ward. Well, I don't know, man.
Okay. Yeah, Chris.
There's no way.
Hi, Chris.
They've said that they're not trading out of number 1. They know who their pick is going to be, and I don't think that they're just totally closing off the phone for, Abdul Carter. I could be wrong.
Shador. Maybe they're following my advice and they like Shador better than Cam
Travis
Ward.
Hunter.
Maybe
Hey,
so. Maybe
number
it is.
one. He'd be worth the number
I
one
mean,
overall
look,
pick.
I will say this.
I would applaud it, except I'd then say, so who's quarterback this year?
If they walk up tomorrow and they draft Travis Hunter, it is an all-time hat tip for me to them for the way that they have like smoke screened this thing. All-time hat tip.
That'd be amazing.
It would be.
Chris also asked if Ward's a bust, who gets fired. Well,
All of
eventually,
them.
yeah. Eventually, everyone. By the way, Liam McLeod says one GM thought Isaiah Wilson was a first-round pick. There's always one. Actually, Liam, Isaiah Wilson was a consensus first-round grade, if I remember correctly. That was not a reach when the Titans took him in 2020. He just was a complete disaster when he got into the league.
Yeah.
That wasn't like as a player, a reach.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Rexrode's about to take me on a roller coaster ride coming up next with what he wants to get into. I don't know where we're going, and I'm excited about it.
Give it a shot.
We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. And Joe put something in our show grid and really, went through our exhaustive 3-hour pre-show meeting. He was talking about this too, of a topic he wanted to do at 6:30, and I don't really know where he's going, so I'm excited to see. Joe, I turn the floor over to you.
Izzo didn't really like this topic, but I don't care, man.
Yeah, he's a little grumpy.
You get back to the portal. Got some roster building to do.
Narduzzi was cool with it though.
Yeah. Well, he just turned 59, so happy birthday, Pat Narduzzi. So actually, and I'm going to give credit to friend of the show, our buddy Ryan Schumpert, because he wrote a story, and I thought it was, I thought it was a good story, and it was the same thing we were kind of talking about yesterday, right? Basically, like, so how the heck did Joey Aguilar? Yeah, here's the tweet from Schumpert tweeting out his story at RockyTopInsider.com. Schumpert does a great job. He said, I'm just truly befuddled by why Joey Aguilar took such a big step back in 2024. App State had the same OC, returned its top 4 receivers and starting tight end, major step back statistically. And, the offensive line, I think, largely returned too. So in the story, it's a good story, but I think the answer is in the story. Of course, remember that their coach was fired and everything like that. Here's why I believe. Now, again, this is not the entire reason, and I'm not going to say that I went back and watched, but this is the underrated part, I believe, of quarterback support, and I believe that it does relate to Cam Ward as we talk about it, because we're going to talk about support with Cam Ward, and we're going to talk about the people who are on the field with him. That is not all there is. In fact, I think it's way underrated by some people that the other side of the ball is a huge part of supporting a quarterback. Not making an offense predictable, not making an offense one-dimensional, not putting a quarterback in a bind where he's behind all the time, where he has to keep up on the scoreboard, where the defense knows that they can just pin their ears back and rush him. So as I'm trying to say this, my computer is now freezing up. But the App State defensive complete nosedive last year, and their numbers were one of the worst defensive teams in college football. At some point, I may be able to tell you the numbers on that, but right now I'm looking at a blank screen. It's really nice. Good. So yeah, no, it's really smart of me to continue to try to ham and egg it with this computer when I have a nice MacBook at home
that you had for a long time.
No, it's great. This is a great moment of clarity for me. But I think that's one. I think if you're a Tennessee Vols fan, you hope that that's more the reason than like that he had some big step back, that he lost his fastball or whatever you want to call it. And if you're a Tennessee Titans fan, man, this is really important. It really is. It's really important that, yes, they have to get him a receiver, but if the Titans don't get a lot better on defense also, that is no way to help, not just a rookie quarterback, any quarterback, but in particular, this rookie quarterback. It's a really important part of this whole equation. So, if they choose edge over receiver, if they have to stick and pick at 35 and they choose edge over receiver, if it's a great edge, that's good too. If you can win football games by scoring 22, 24 points, which I know sounds like a lot for the Titans.
It does.
Then, and you don't have to get to 30, that matters too, And so that was my little.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's how I'm tying the two things together.
Because you don't often think of like supporting your quarterback of, oh, let's go get some good defensive players. So number one, the quarterback is on the field more. And number two, that they're not having to score 45 points a game to go out there and win, right? Like, it's great when your quarterback can do that, but it would be awesome if you didn't have to do that in order to win games. Now, look, personally, if I'm a Titans fan, I have no problem if pick number 35 rolls around and let's say that, whether it's Landon Jackson or Ezraku out of Boston, whoever it is, that there's an edge rusher there that they just love and they pick them, I'm cool with that. Like, they need an edge rusher at least as much as they need a wide receiver out there. So I'm cool with it. I do understand the idea of, well, if you're taking the quarterback, go get the quarterback some weapons and see, offensively, if you can help him along here. You need to do both. Will they be able to do both? Like, we got people all over the text line this morning saying, all right, they're going Ward at 1. They got to move back from 35. I hear you. Are they going to be able to do it? Those are two different things there. Maybe they will. And if you can, like, if you can move back from 35 to 42 or whatever it is and pick up an extra pick there, great. That's awesome. But, and you need both. You need wide receiver and edge rusher. And one of the things they kept talking about yesterday was staying true to the board. I do think this is a case where, like, you can do that. You can stay true to the board and also look and say, there's a lot of good wide receivers and edge rushers that will be available in that spot that may end up being lining up exactly with what your board is at that point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it would be huge for them to be able to get out of there, to me. And I would advise it. I mean, even if there's someone you really like there, but you just don't know. You just don't know if you have to have someone who wants to get into that spot. They might want to get in a spot two spots before you. I mean, you don't know. You cannot dictate it. You can be open for business, but you have to have the team on the other side who wants to do it. So, I mean, look, they absolutely have to give him more help at receiver for sure. They could cobble it together at tight end and get an undrafted free agent with those guys and have a tight end room. Maybe the offensive line is a lot better. We'll see. I think if they draft an offensive lineman at this point, it would be for depth. That'd be good.
Yeah.
But you don't have too many picks. It's and running back, you're okay. Should they draft Cam Scadaboo number 1 overall instead of Cam Ward? Yes, they should. But they won't. Will they draft a running back? Maybe. I think they could still be okay at running back. They are not okay at receiver.
No.
Not close to okay at all at receiver.
And that's if they're totally healthy, which what's the likelihood of that throughout the year as well? Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Steve in Franklin. Steve, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, man.
Good.
Back in January, I'd really convinced myself that the Titans would take Bill Carter because their defense was such a mess, and I just felt like he was the best. And it always bothered me that the Miami Hurricanes last year, who were in the top 5 most of the season, kind of faltered at the end, lost a few games that they shouldn't have lost, didn't make the college football playoff, didn't make their conference championship. And I just felt like maybe, Cam Ward wasn't worthy of that number 1 pick. But do you believe that they're just so down on Will Levis, they just feel desperate to make this pick? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, to answer the first part of the question, yes, I believe they're that down on Will Levis. Now, are they desperate? Like, that's where you get into how we've gotten to this point in the offseason. Like, it's not like Cam Ward's the only option they've had at quarterback. Like, they could have gone and gotten themselves involved with some of these veteran quarterbacks, and they chose not to do it.
Yeah,
So,
they didn't have to do this.
Right. They didn't have to do this. So, do I believe that they're really down on Will Levis? Yeah, I do. By the way, we'll play this audio a little bit later, but Borgonzi was asked about Levis yesterday, and he was like, well, he is a quarterback that is in our room. That's basically what he said. So it was awesome.
He is a human who exists in the
He
city
is
of Nashville.
currently on our roster. So there is that. So number one, I'm just like, is there a way that they move on from Levis here in the next day or two? Like, does that happen? I'm interested to see what that looks like. But yes, they're down on Levis. But are they just that desperate to have Cam Ward? Like, there were other options you could have gone after earlier this offseason.
Exactly. Look, I stand with Jared. They should have gone after Sam Darnold, but there were others they could have gone after as well. And then you do that, and you either get Hunter or you get a bundle of picks, and you move forward, and you don't, at some point, yes, you do have to get the young quarterback. At some point you do, but as someone pointed out here, the New Orleans Saints last time they drafted a quarterback in the first round was Archie Manning. My God, what's going on with me today? I need some tea with lemon bitters.
Ginger
Archie
juice?
I was gonna say,
What's
I
that?
don't know if we have any ginger chews handy.
Ginger juice?
I mean, Pekarsky is coming in today, right?
He is.
Did ginger chews help your voice?
According to him, they help everything.
I thought they were good for your stomach.
I think they are. I think they're good for a lot of
I
things.
mean, I'll try them. Speaking of that, Dustin from Hobsonville says we sound just like Koharski. I don't know what that means. Oh, like in our little accents. Maybe we'll see if we can do a Borgonzi later. Yeah, look, they didn't have to. They didn't have to do this at quarterback.
speak normally. You can sound.
That's right. Yeah, we say as a Boston accent. So. And that's the thing. Yeah, and as far as Levis, I do think someone here said, they're saving him to trade with the 35th pick. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that that's going to be some big sweetener for a team, but a team might give him a 6 or something.
Yeah.
For Levis.
That's about what
fifth?
you're looking at.
Did they get a
I mean, if you
fifth?
get a 5th, I would do a cartwheel if I were the Titans.
But I do feel like moving him is definitely the most likely outcome at this point.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your reaction to get to on the Cam Ward front. Coming up next, we'll do that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. It is time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor, presented by Gary Force Acura, Cromwell Media, along with Fox 17, Outfront Media, and Social Indoor. We'll be back at Hermitage Golf Course on Thursday, May 29th to make a difference while having a great time. You can join us, a few guest media members, athletes, and musicians. As we raise money for Folds of Honor, donations will go to provide life-changing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled military and first responders. Sign up to play or to sponsor at 615open.com. Taking your thoughts on our text line on Cam Ward. Mike from Pennsylvania says, even if Cam is 3rd or 4th on their board, it's worth passing on the others. I'm a huge Abdul Carter fan, but the Browns have the best rusher in football, and they're picking up number 2. Even if Cam becomes an above-average quarterback, that's better than having the best pass rusher. This from Mike from Pennsylvania on the text line. Do you agree with that? An above-average quarterback, is that better than the best pass rusher?
Nah, I don't know about that. No, I think that you can find an above-average quarterback most years in free agency. I don't think that you can find the best pass rusher ever in free agency. So that's how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you get the best pass rusher, you probably drafted him, and then you're going to pay him, and like that's a huge asset in this league. An above-average quarterback is something that, again, the Titans could have signed before this draft. If Cam becomes an
Not
above,
according to some on the YouTube chat. They're cooking you for the Sam Darnold stuff. They
Yeah.
do not like
well,
Sam
no, that's
Darnold.
fine. Look, if you don't like him in particular, that's fine. Are you going to tell me that's fine? We can differ on him. And again, I'm not like gaga like Sam Darnold's the next star in this league, but he proved to me a lot last year. That you're welcome to disagree and focus on the last 2 games if you want. Are you actually going to tell me though that they could not have signed an above-average quarterback, that there was not one available in free agency? If you're arguing that, you're an idiot. Are you an idiot, YouTube chatters? Are you idiots?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not calling you idiots. I'm
You're
asking you if you're
questions.
idiots. But seriously, like I'm messing around with you, but seriously, you could have signed like an above-average quarterback is not okay for the number 1 pick. Not okay at all. What was Mariota? I guess he was average in final analysis.
He was below average.
Well,
I think you and I have very different definitions.
Well,
of
he's a
above
backup.
average, and
Yeah,
he's
he's a backup,
He's a
so.
backup quarterback.
oh, now he is. Yeah, absolutely.
As a starting quarterback, he was below average.
As a starting quarterback in year 2, he was good to very good. Definitely
The
above
totality of his quarterback, as his tenure as a starting quarterback, was well below average. He sucked.
I say it's average.
He sucked.
All right. Well, if you want to, I'm glad that we've given you a
He didn't
forum
like.
to-
He didn't. Will Levis suck, but he sucked.
Yeah. He sucked in the last year. I'll give you that. The totality of his career, again, whatever you want to call it, it was not okay to be for the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft, right? So that's the point. So if Cam Ward is above average, then you've blown it, right? Like you've blown it. That's not okay. What is, and tell me, I mean, again, these are words, these are semantics, so you could have different definitions of them, but what does above average get you? What does above average get you? The whole point of this is to win championships. How close does above average get you to that? Every once in a while, we have seen a quarterback who's average win one.
Yeah.
But the number 1 overall pick better at least be good.
Yeah. Like, we had the conversation earlier in the offseason about Mayfield, right? Like if Cam Ward turns into what Mayfield is now, then yeah, I'll take that. Like that's a good quarterback. Baker Mayfield is now a good quarterback.
Yeah,
he is well above average. He's a good quarterback.
It's one of those things, right? I agree.
He's not an elite quarterback.
You would take it.
Right.
You would take it, but I still think it's an argument for not doing what they've done, if that makes sense, right?
I mean, Baker Mayfield just threw 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. Like, I think there's a pretty good chance Cam Ward will never do that in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess right, but the alternative route here is loading up your roster because you have the number 1 pick. Can you get someone in the realm of Baker Mayfield? Like, is that unattainable? I don't think it is.
I don't think it's unattainable, but like, I mean, you say this offseason, like, who was that guy this offseason at quarterback? I don't think that guy exists. Like, Sam Darnold's not that. I mean, who else was that? Like, Rodgers at age 41, maybe. I don't know. We'll see if he actually ends up signing anywhere.
I mean, Rodgers, Cousins.
But neither one of those guys are that. Like, neither one of those guys at this stage of their career.
Neither one of those guys had a year like Baker just did. I would agree. I think most years you can have a pretty good quarterback. Right?
I would agree, especially now. Like, I don't think it always used to be that way, but I think
it's way different.
The last 3-4 years, that's become more and more the thing. Like, there's more quarterback movement now. So, yeah, look, Cam Ward, if he is, like, I would agree, above average, like, what exactly does that mean? Like, what is above average? Because if he's just above average, then this is going to be a bad pick. If he's good, like, I don't think he has to be elite for this to be a good pick at number 1. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, if he's good and they win, and to me, it's if he's good, they win, and you have your answer at that position for long term, and he's good enough not just to get you to the playoffs on a frequent basis, but to win playoff games.
Yeah.
You know, give you a chance to mount some runs, and again, so much of that is also going to be so many other things. You know, you're talking about one of the best rosters, I would say, you know, overall, top to bottom, one of the very good rosters, top rosters in the league 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and now the worst roster.
I got one texter that says it's okay to say Mariota was fine. I don't think it is. I don't think it's okay to say
I
that.
think it's okay too, but we don't want to get Robby all riled up.
I think we got really low standards of quarterback play around here. If you think that was fine, that would be how I would say that.
I mean, it just, you know, year for
really
year.
Low standards.
2016, very good. 2017, not great. Did win a playoff game. Don't tell me he just threw a touchdown to himself. He made big throws in that game.
Go back and watch that game.
Well, yeah, I've watched. I covered that game. I was there.
Aware. I mean, again, I think we got really low standards of good quarterback play around here. I mean, really low.
All right, you're gonna make me do this. So you telling me that he didn't play well in that game at Kansas City?
He was okay. Like, he made some good plays in that game. The highlight of which was he threw a touchdown pass to himself. That was deflected.
The highlight of which was the winning touchdown pass to Eric Decker.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you know.
How many yards Derrick Henry have in that game?
Yeah, he had a good game.
Okay.
He had like 140 yards. Yeah. Oh, so now if someone else has a good game, the quarterback sucks?
Like, how many yards did Mariota throw for in that game?
I'm looking it up right now. Just for you. So, okay, so 2017. Then 2018, he starts at, so he was 19 for 31, 205, 2 touchdowns. Okay. You know,
it's fine.
He ran 8 times for 46 yards.
Like, people act like that's, you know, oh my God, it's Tom Brady out there.
No, but the texter just said it's okay to say it was fine. You just said it was fine.
His career was fine. His Titans career was fine.
For a number 2 pick? Hell no.
I mean, okay, is that not what we're talking about? How do you call his career fine? He was a total bust, which is why the Titans moved on from him. He sucked. Why can we not say that? Why is that so hard?
I mean, you can say whatever you want.
I don't understand this. Like, we had got to get some higher standards around here as a quarterback. There are people that are still calling in talking about Will Levis. Good gracious. Do you guys know what a good quarterback play is around here?
I don't know how this happened, but I'd like to thank whoever lit this match.
Good gracious. We'll have more on the Cam Ward front coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service.
Is Ian the issue here?
I don't know.
You're out here screaming about people sucking.
Have some osmosis, perhaps?
Does
Does
Ian's
Ian bring it
gentle
out?
nature actually cause others to
Just oozes out of me now.
melt down? Is that what's going
We
on?
got people. We got several people right now on the text line concerned about my health. I think I'm okay. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus was fine, man. Jeez.
Jeez.
He's all right.
We did have someone say, like, he wasn't as bad as Levis. And I was like, I agree with that. I never saw Marcus Mariota turn around and chuck a football over the back of his head in the middle of an NFL football game. So there is that.
There you go. A lot of people enjoying that, though. A lot of people, let Robby cook. I see. Totally on Team Rob. Robby gets it. Never heard Robby snap. It was hilarious. MM8 was buns. Let's be honest.
We have gotten away from the buns here. We need to get back to it.
We have. Measuring cheek size.
There we
Thank
go.
you. And then this texter, or not, the YouTube chatter says, as an idiot, I take offense to Joe asking if YouTube chatters are idiots. It should be self-evident. I was asking. I was not telling. Just saying. There's a lot. It gets emotional around the QB, right?
It gets emotional around the QB.
In the NFL.
Look, for Cam Ward, the bar is going to be a whole lot higher than whatever Marcus Mariota was here, whether he was fine or terrible or somewhere in between. Yeah, Cam Ward needs to be way better than that. I think we would all agree on that. Needs to be way better than that.
He absolutely does.
Otherwise, everybody here that's making this decision right now is going to get fired, and they're not going to be around. You got to have Cam Ward come in. And he's got to be, if you're going this route and you're picking him number 1 overall, and we brought up the board conversation, like where exactly does he fit in on the board? I have no idea. I am interested to get Kuharski's thoughts on that later, because you spent an entire press conference yesterday talking about staying true to your board. And now it looks like if you're like other NFL teams, you're not staying true to your board at number 1 overall. Like they need him to be really, really good. And frankly, here's the other, independent of him and his skill set, which, look, there's been a lot of stuff we've said about Cam Ward. This is probably not the way I would go. I do recognize that he's got ability, he's got talent, and he could end up being a good player in the NFL. I am, as we currently sit here today, I'm more worried about what's not around him right now and how that can affect him than I am him, if that makes any sense. Like him coming into this situation with very limited help at receiver. We'll see what they do at the draft. Very limited help on the defensive side of the ball right now based on, I have no idea if their top paid corner is going to be available. Right now, they don't have an edge rusher. Jeffrey Simmons, I think, has not been as good as he has been, as you need him to be the last couple of years. Like there's
no inside
this,
linebackers.
yeah, like this, the situation he's walking into right now is a bad one. And that scares me.
Yeah, no question. That's a huge concern. So you guys want to play Cam Libs?
Sure.
I came up with a little game.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're going to do Cam Libs, which is like ad libs. I'm sorry, Mad Libs,
Yeah.
except, with Cam Ward.
Okay.
All right. So you fill in word or words, okay?
Okay.
Whatever comes to mind. We'll go around the horn here.
Okay.
I'm blank that Cam Ward will be a generational quarterback.
Highly skeptical.
Excited.
Woo.
I like that.
Okay. I'm laughing at the idea that Cam Ward will be a generational quarterback.
Wow.
Okay. Number 2, I'm blank that Cam Ward will be a great quarterback.
Can I use the same word?
You can.
I will not do that. I am doubtful. Doubtful.
Hopeful.
Okay. I like the positive to the sunshine
No.
from the other side of the glass. I like it a lot. I'm highly dubious that Cam Ward will be a great quarterback. Number 3, I'm blank. I promise you, I change up at some point. That Cam Ward will be a good quarterback.
I will go hopeful for that one. I think he can get there.
absolutely certain for you, right?
Probably not. No. I don't know. For a good quarterback, I guess hopeful sounds about right. I don't know.
Still hopeful.
Yeah.
Okay. I am cautiously, faintly optimistic
Faintly. Okay.
that Cam Ward will be a good quarterback. 4, I'm blank that Cam Ward will be a total bust.
Scared. I am scared to death. That
Yeah,
he will be a
worried
total
is
bust.
worried is a good one. Yep.
Okay, I'm fearful but far from convinced that Cam Ward will be a total bust. Number 5, the Titans starting quarterback when they open new Nissan Stadium in 2027 will be blank.
I'm going Cam Ward for no other reason than he's the number 1 overall pick. And that would be what, his 3rd year? Yeah, I'll go Cam Ward.
Yeah, I
It
guess
would have to be a pretty darn big disaster between now and
I
then.
guess I will too.
I hear you, but man, I mean, in this league
I
now,
know.
In this league now, year 3 is
You going Nico?
no. I'm going Cam,
Okay.
but
Arch?
but yeah, too much in your shirt, too much starch for Arch.
we're gonna have to work on
Yeah,
that.
that's a tough one. Of the Titans' first-round quarterback since Steve McNair, Cam Ward will rank blank. This isn't really an ad lib; it's just a number among the group of Vince Young, Jake Locker, and Marcus Mariota.
God, what a group that is.
Rookie of the year in there. 3,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 picks. Year 2 for Mariota in there. Just saying.
I'm glad he had one good year.
Yeah, it did happen.
I'll go 2nd behind Vince.
I'll go top.
Yeah, I'll go first too. I mean,
It's not a great list.
Yeah, I don't feel like super optimistic about it, but it also the bar is not. Yeah, it's like rookie of the year.
bar is very low.
But then from there, the Vince Young era.
I'm amending my answer. I'll go first. The more I think about it, that's a terrible list.
So we're all pretty. Really, this is all quite a bit of optimism about Cam Ward.
You should be kind of by default better than those guys.
It's like optimism about Cam Ward, or is it more just it's been so bad? How could you not be?
I think it's both.
All right, last one. If the Titans blank, Cam Ward will be a success with the Titans.
I was almost a really big smart aleck there. I almost said win. If the Titans
it's not
win,
a bad word.
Cam Ward.
That's what it's all about.
If the Titans have a good coach in Brian Callahan, Cam Ward will be successful. That's what I'll say.
I like that. And I'd say something probably to the effect of this Borgonzi GM front office structure. Like, who are they bringing in? The roster is terrible. So he'll be successful if they can somehow flip the roster over the next couple of years.
Yeah, basically, I had if the Titans have in fact found a genius QB developer in Callahan and a shrewd GM in Borgonzi, Cam Ward will be a success. So yeah, it's exactly that. Does he have this? Does he actually have good support right now? Does he have a coach who's good? We don't know that he doesn't. We know that it didn't work with Will Levis. That could be much more on Levis than Callahan.
Could be.
I don't know.
We're going to start to find out though pretty quickly this year.
Yeah.
I think I just need better quarterback play excuse goes. It'll get you there for a little bit, but when you get into quarterback number 2, like you need to see progress there. And I'm not saying they got to go win 10 games this year with Cam Ward, but you need to see. We need to walk away from this year saying you could see Brian Callahan's kind of impact come out in Cam Ward as the season went along there. Got to have it. Otherwise, probably looking for another coach, which gets into a whole nother ball of wax.
Which sucks for Cam.
Yeah.
But I guess if that's why you're doing it, then at least it's reasonably acceptable. If it's just, again, because he's kind of a lame duck coach, then that's you've screwed everything up already.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Nice Cam libs there
Thank you.
from Joe Rexrode. We'll take your reaction to that. More your thoughts on Cam Ward. Paul Kuharski will be with us later in the program as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Fog Street Lawn Club, Nashville's premier soccer pub and rooftop. Fog Street Lawn Club offers scrumptious bites, British lawn bowling, and premier soccer pub vibes. Get half off a $30 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals and dive into the ultimate rooftop experience. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Taking your thoughts on Cam Ward and the number 1 overall pick for the Tennessee Titans. So Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan speaking yesterday. They said that they're picking at number 1. They know who their pick is going to be. They made the organizational decision. Don't bother making phone calls about trading for number 1 at this point. And we've seen your reaction to that throughout the show. Another thing they also talked about yesterday, when you look at kind of the breakdown of where their roster is right now. We spent a lot of time this offseason talking about, Ridley and Bryce Oliver and where that receiving room sits. I did walk away from the press conference yesterday, Joe, thinking that specifically at 35, they've got kind of their list of players that they would say, you know what, this person's here at 35. That's where we're going. Great. We'd love to trade back and get more picks, but this player is here. That's who we're taking. And I think there's a certain amount of players that they've got on that list. And then beyond that, I think they're definitely going to try to move back and get more picks if those players are not there.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it'd be great for them to have the option, to have to have a team want to get in there and have a choice to make. The worst case, obviously, is no one wants into that spot and the people they love are gone. It went earlier than they anticipated or than they hoped, and they're just left to pick there and sit there during the whole third round and don't pick again for a long time. That's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is Paul Kaharski comes in so early. What the heck? Dude, turn your head over to Robby. I thought he had look at the headphones on his face.
Okay. Yeah, those headphones are a little mashed up there.
Sorry.
How about we get a little better
weirded
product?
me out.
How about we get a little better product?
Get some
over
better
here?
headphones.
I mean, you're
But
putting
what
me in-
happened to those? Those got blown out.
I don't know. I thought you were talking about his face or something. His face looks fine.
I think Ian is not providing the talent with very good equipment.
Immediately attacking Ian.
I don't know.
Immediately attacking Ian.
When Nick was here, I never wore these.
Sabotage.
Good morning.
Good morning. How we doing?
It's nice to be here. I loved hearing your rant about people's standards on quarterbacks, and certainly Marcus Mariota has an unbelievable pass among this fan base because he was a nice guy. People think he was a great quarterback. It's just
But you just said a great quarterback. No one thinks he was a great quarterback.
Well, there are people that think he was a great quarterback.
Fine. There are people who think the world is flat.
There is a disproportionate amount of fans in this market that think Marcus Mariota was something that he was not.
It's fine.
Oh, boy.
Robby, you were fantastic.
That
That was one of your best segments in the history of what I've heard of the show.
You got rave reviews, and people are asking for more of this, Robby.
Yeah,
So we
people
need
wanna see
to
me
find
die.
a way.
Yeah, it's good to know.
We need to find a way.
Let's have Robby let's finish him off over here. That's awesome. I'm just saying.
Long fuse.
I understand. Look, this is the Titans' fault because they can't apparently draft a quarterback throughout the history of their organization other than McNair. But good Lord, we got to get some better standards around here. You got Stillman texting you of, he's better than Jake Locker. Well, that's great.
Wow.
I'm glad we've established that Mariota was better than two of the worst starting quarterbacks to walk through here.
And also-
in Locker and Levis.
Stilly also pointed out, that Mariota had a nice QB run. I forgot about that. It was a little read option. He kept it, and he won the game in Kansas City. What a big win in the playoffs, PK.
Also, on the Levis thing, and I'm not in on Levis. But I don't understand why they have to be out on Levis. And I think they will try to move Levis here. But I think it's just very clearly the second, the best quarterback on the roster right now. And the second best quarterback on the roster after they draft Cam Ward. I don't think he's going to be some huge problem once he comes to terms with the fact that he's here and a backup. And I don't understand the team being so anxious to get rid of their second best quarterback.
Is this
This
you
idea-
flip-flopping? Is this
No.
you having a complete flip-flop take?
I'm not
I
flip-flop.
think he's-
I've
I
never
think he's
said
been
they need to
consistent on
get
that.
rid of Will Levis.
You
This
just had a
idea
bad
that
take all
Brandon
along.
Allen is somehow a great option for them if and when Cam Ward can't do it or gets hurt is ridiculous.
Okay.
That he's has better skills than
Well,
Will Levis.
He may not have better skills, but do you trust Will Levis as a game managing backup quarterback?
I don't trust him as a game managing backup quarterback right now, but I think if you let him fade into the background and be a backup quarterback, there's still potential for him to grow. And Brandon Allen is what Brandon Allen is, and Brandon Allen's not particularly good. Titans are big on telling us how good these two backup quarterbacks are who've had no success and are at their ceiling.
Pretty bad take by you, actually. You're coming right in with a bad take. That's okay.
You love Brandon Allen?
No, but I think that I'm not saying that like Will Levis would be like a huge distraction, but I still think there's like you just had him as your last attempt at a franchise quarterback. Granted, it's not the number one pick, but that's what he was. I mean, the entire city was hoping that Will Levis was going to become the guy last year. It went terribly.
Sure.
And I don't think I think maybe you're right that he could sort of develop into a safer quarterback and someone you'd feel good about being a backup. And I don't disagree that he has more talent than those guys, but I just think, you know, what you need, you'd rather have better than those guys, but those guys still fit the bill of veterans who can help a young guy who there's no talk at all when Cam Ward has 117-yard 3-pick game. Well, Levis, put Levis back.
You're
Levis
going to let
doesn't
what the
suck.
fans say dictate your roster?
No,
Boy, that's a weak organization.
well, Paul, come on. You have to be realistic about this stuff. That stuff does matter. It's in a locker room too, right? It doesn't happen in a locker room, and it's not just the fans.
I'm not going to I'm going to have a strong locker room that's not going to dictate anything either. I mean, there shouldn't be Will Levis
running a team.
There shouldn't be. First off, the locker room sucks.
A lot of suck today on the program.
I'm not
Maybe it
listening
is
to
again.
anybody in that locker room hasn't earned any kind of stripes so far.
But you know how
There's
it
a new-
goes. Okay, fine. But you know the reality of this.
Assign Will Levis his job, tell him to do his job, and manage him.
I don't want any part of him just because I don't think he's not at all what I'm looking for in a backup quarterback. He does not have the veteran experience. He turns the ball over all the time. Like I don't want any part of that as my backup quarterback if I'm the Titans.
I agree with you.
I understand that
You
case
should yell at
against
Paul.
him, but I'm not excited about Brandon Allen.
I'm not excited about Brandon Allen either. Like I mean, frankly, this
No
goes
love
back
for Tim
to
Boyle.
I mean,
Tim
look,
Boyle's
guys,
maybe the worst quarterback that's one of the worst quarterbacks that's ever been in the league.
I've seen Tim Boyle.
Ever in the
It's
league.
not great.
I mean, I'm not kidding. Have you ever watched him in a preseason game? I mean, he played for the Giants a couple of years ago. It was a horror show.
It's not very good. But this to me goes back to the mishandling of this in the offseason. Like, this is why you should have gone and got a quarterback that is better than Brandon Allen, that maybe is not a full-fledged starter. And it didn't have to be Jameis. Jameis is the guy we threw out there, but he turns the ball over all the time too.
No.
But like, aim higher than Brandon Allen for your backup quarterback.
Look,
That's
if
what
they
you should have
get
done.
something fair for Will
They did
Levis,
try to sign Mason again, right? I mean,
Yes.
no.
they did not.
Oh, they
Someone
did. No,
reported
they
that.
did try to
Yeah.
re-sign him.
Yeah.
which was a terrible idea.
Well, but is that
No,
not better than Brandon
no.
Allen? He's not better than Brandon Allen?
I'm not sure he is because listen,
You're
listen.
confusing
No,
me
but
so
listen,
much today. with your
I'll
takes.
play right into your hands. Mason Rudolph is exactly what you're saying about Will Levis, but he is the veteran.
Yeah, I mean,
He came in to replace Levis and did exactly what Levis did.
Not
But he's the
exactly.
calming veteran.
I don't remember
His
any behind
turnover-
the back passes.
His
for
turnover
pick
rate
sixes.
was exactly the same as Levis.
Yeah.
So he's the veteran who's coming in to
there's at
calm
least a-
things down, and he played just as poorly as Levis in terms of turnover.
Maybe by the numbers.
Let's head to our
I mean, I wouldn't want to look at the numbers when it comes to turnovers.
Maybe
Why
by-
would we look at the numbers?
Maybe
It's the
by
same guy that
facts.
thinks the Marcus Mariota was Peyton Manning out there.
Yeah.
He's okay.
Let's head back to our
You're right.
1025 The Game phone line. Welcome in East Nashville, Ed, to the program. Ed, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Paul, I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. I think Levis in time would be a really good backup. I think he needs to sit and learn. Physically, he's there. It's just mentally. So I think with some time on the sideline, he would be a really good backup. The problem is though, he started here. He was drafted here. And he was looking to take over. He was the guy looking to take over the franchise. And so now you're asking him to be the second fiddle. I just don't see that working.
Jobs
I think it would
change
work
in the
somewhere
league.
else.
Guys get demoted. Guys get promoted. That's
No,
part
I
of being a
understand,
pro.
but when they get promoted, yeah, but they usually go to another team. All right. Listen, I can remember when Magic Johnson left the league. I know we're talking about basketball. He came back. Nick Van Exel was the point guard. You know what happened in about 8 games? Magic became the point guard again.
Well, I don't want to talk about NBA comparisons. Aren't doing anything
I
for me here.
understand. I'm just telling you the dynamics of a first-round pick now being the second-round pick on the same team. It's not going to work.
Thank you, Ed.
I personally like that poll from the 1991-92 NBA season. Kudos. Ed.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
We'll have more with Paul Kuharsky coming next. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on the Cam Ward / Will Levis front. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Sounds take on Durham at First Horizon Park. Pregame at 6:20, first pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Paul Kuharski with us for the rest of the program, taking your questions for PK on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I'd like to quickly address a text I saw. It says, why are we ruling out drafting a backup quarterback? Patriots did it last year with Milton and May, and the Commanders RG3 and Kirk Cousins. So, first of all, my answer is, have you seen this team's needs? Also, again, they just signed Allen and Boyle. Like, they're not drafting another quarterback after camp.
Also, you don't have a rookie quarterback back up a rookie quarterback.
Right.
That's why.
Well, the Patriots last year had Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, exactly. They had Brissett. Now, he is right that I don't know who the heck Washington had back then. It was RG3, and Kirk was his backup, like, immediately.
Kirk was a
not
fourth-round
ideal
pick, right?
He was.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's not happening. Like, that's
by the way, that was not
happening.
the franchise at the time that you really wanted to model yourself after either.
Right.
It's the Dan Snyder-led Washington team.
Yeah.
So.
And they did have a little success there.
Also, when they talk about how bad this quarterback class is, nobody says, but it's loaded with great backup potential guys.
That's true.
There are some guys, like a Kyle McCord. I'm interested to see where he goes in this draft. Not as much interested to see where Quinn Ewers goes in this draft.
Yeah.
But he'll go somewhere.
ESPN had Quinn Ewers, like they've got this little draft graphic up on their TV now. They had Quinn Ewers apparently is like, I guess, Mel Kiper's 10th guy, and they had the Ohio State logo next to him, not Texas. So
really?
Like, really?
Wow.
Okay. Interesting.
Disrespect for the Longhorns.
And Quinn Ewers. Like, we're not going to take the time to even research where you went to school, where you finished up.
He was there for a minute.
He was there for half a second.
Yeah.
But interesting stuff.
Weird.
So, very good stuff on that front. One thing that we did not get to this point in the show, L'Jarius Sneed, his situation was brought up yesterday with the Titans. They didn't really go down that road, talked about how they released a statement, don't have any more information on that to this point. So, PK, as we sit here today, what do you make of where things stand there? And as we sit here a day before the draft, how much do you think corners on their radar here in the next couple of days?
I think they'll draft a cornerback for sure. I mean, I think they would have drafted a cornerback almost for sure if there were no questions about L'Jarius Sneed. Look, based on what we know about this case, I don't think there's a chance that he gets suspended, but the police report that's out through the lawyer who's representing the quote unquote victim in the civil suit is completely redacted. I don't understand why it would be redacted. It's a matter of public record. So
for people who don't know what redacted means, by the way, it's basically a lot of words are blacked out.
Really underestimating the audience's vocabulary, insulting.
I mean, redacted is kind of a jargony journalism word, don't you think?
No, I think it's an English word.
I forgot you're an Ivy Leaguer.
It's not a very complicated word. I mean, it's not strictly
not for someone with your big brain.
It's not strictly a legal term. Anyway, that so much of it is blacked out, and that you don't know what's gone on there is concerning to me. Also, I learned at the combine that there was stuff that was concerning to them about L'Jarius Sneed.
Yep.
Is this the extent of the stuff, or is there more stuff? That's the big question to me. I haven't found any other stuff, but that doesn't mean there isn't any.
Whether
other
his
stuff.
legs work would be.
Well, yeah, this is all separate of
yeah.
the quad and the knee.
So you say you're certain they're drafting a cornerback, but are you really? Because I could make a case for a lot of other positions.
Yeah,
too.
I can too, but a lot of teams draft corners pretty regularly, and the Titans, through multiple regimes, have drafted corners pretty regularly. It's I mean, even if you just put Sneed there as a starter, but iffy, you get to Gabe Judy Lolly pretty quickly there in the event of an injury, and that's not good enough.
A lot of people throwing Quincy Riley out there as a potential target for the Titans. We'll see what that ultimately.
Yeah, and I do think one of the good things that we get carried away with the visits, and one of the good things Borgonzi said yesterday about the defensive lineman visiting is, some of these guys we just had questions about and needed to finish. So, it's 30 visits. They have 8 picks. I bet they draft a guy that they didn't have in to visit. Maybe multiple guys, and some of these guys they may have had in to visit in order to finish crossing them off the list. Floyd Reese was big on that. I think Robinson was really big on that some of those visits were about finishing the process of not wanting a guy.
Eli asks, I'll ask both of you, would you trade a 4th-round pick for Mark Andrews?
No. That's off the top of my head. I need to look at his injury history and his
I'd
age.
probably say no, too.
But I think the two are bad.
He's he's been a great player.
He's
but
29.
Boy, that's
He'll be 30 in September.
You know who's more intriguing to me? And I was really surprised when I looked at his numbers because I felt that I was sure that he had dropped off, and he has not, is George Kittle.
Yep.
Now, I don't care that he lives in Nashville. That's a non-factor or
He's a huge Preds
home
fan.
here or anything of that. But his last 2 seasons have been terrific. Now, he's old, I don't know. And he's expensive. I'm sure he wants a new contract, so I don't know what you're willing to give him there. But he's a guy that I would think would be a leader in your locker room and certainly a target for Cam Ward.
Hell of a football player.
Yeah.
I'm down. Go after both of them.
Whoa.
Not at the same time. But
Two
I'd be down
tight
to go with either of them.
Edwards, what's Edwards?
Andrews.
Sorry, what's Andrews' injury status?
Well,
I think the last 2 years haven't been great.
I mean,
he played
last
17
year.
games last year. The year before he played in 10, and the year before that 15. So he's
That's
been
not as bad
dealing
as I
with
thought.
some injury. I mean, last
I think
year
he
He
played
also
hurt.
lost the playoff game for them last year.
He did do
It was
that.
an awful performance. He only started 13 last year.
Right.
I mean, that could be that they start in 3 wide, or
Right.
it could be that he is limited. Don't know it off the top of my head. But he feels like a guy that's on the downswing.
Well, that's the thing with either one of those guys. Like George Kittle has got 1 year left on his deal with San Francisco. He's in a contract dispute right now with the Niners and is not showing up to their OTAs at the moment. So do they get that worked out? Does he end up playing through it this year and then is free agent next year? Do they trade him? There's a whole lot still to be determined there. And we'll see on Andrews. Andrews is younger than I thought, though. 29. I thought he was probably 31, 32.
Nevertheless,
No, I
I
did too.
find Kittle way more intriguing.
He's dynamic.
615-737-1025. Our phone number, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com is with us for the remainder of the program. Don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on the Game Nashville Sports Network. Tomorrow, broadcasting live from Twin Peaks in Madison, and Friday from Boom Boss Pizza and Watch Bar in East Nashville. Coverage beginning at 6 o'clock each day, presented by Hardee's, Parman Tractor and Equipment, Twin Peaks, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Shaneco, and Professional Home Improvements. We'll be on 102.5 The Game tomorrow, and then Friday on Sports Talk 8:30. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
You're getting cooked on the text line right now.
I am?
By the way. Just
I'm getting cooked?
absolutely roasted.
In all the ways I want to be like you, having gout is the number one way.
I want my number ones back, all of them.
That's crazy. Why would I give them back?
Because at the end of the day, no one's the wiser, Tom. You haven't lost anything, and you get the quarterback messiah you've always wanted for $7 million less.
Do your favorite foods cause gout flare-ups? Join our clinical study, Fighting Gout at the Source.
He was a total bust. It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours with Paul Kuharski in the house.
I've pivoted. Today I was actually going to, again, talk about this Assassins game, which is causing me to lose years off my life. I have a kid. Well, I should save it for another day. But let me just say real quick.
Way to know what you're going to rant about.
You just shut up for a minute. I have a kid who, when he comes home and drives into the driveway, makes me walk around the house to make sure no one's there with a squirt gun before he gets out of the car and gets into the house.
Surveillance.
So you can take it first, and you can just
also
you pay the price.
A person on his, yeah.
He wants you in a what is it called? A gila suit, laying in the bushes.
Yeah.
Also, a person on his team last weekend drove 2.5 hours to a lake house to wait for someone on another team who he knew was going with her family so that he could then shoot her with a water gun.
It's entirely too much
That's
effort.
great.
This is
entirely too much
This
effort.
needs to be banned in society. This wasn't supposed to be the rant. Here's my rant. Ready?
Ready.
If it's good.
Marcus was fine. Roll the tape. So now if someone else has a good game, the quarterback sucks.
Like, how many yards did Mariota throw for in that game?
I'm looking it up right now. Just for you. So, okay,
I
so
really sucked in this
2017.
part.
Then 2018, he starts at, so he was 19 for 31, 205, 2 touchdowns. Okay. You know,
It's fine.
he ran 8 times for 46 yards.
Like, people act like that's, oh my God, it's Tom Brady out there.
No, but the texter just said it's okay to say it was fine.
In
You just said it was
totality?
fine.
His career was fine. His Titans career was fine.
For a number 2 pick, hell no.
I mean, okay, is that not what we're talking about? How do you call his career fine? He was a total bust, which is why the Titans moved on from him. He sucked. Why can we not say that? Why is that so hard?
I mean, you can say whatever you want.
I don't understand this.
I was afraid.
We had got to get some higher standards around here as a quarterback. There are people that are still calling in talking about Will Levis. Good gracious. Do you guys know what a good quarterback play is around here?
I don't know how this happened, but I'd like to thank whoever lit this match.
Good gracious.
Yep, there we go.
Robby Stanley's best work. How are you taking credit for it? I mean,
I'm not taking credit for
you're
it.
defending Meek Marcus. Look,
Meek
here's what AI says.
Meek
Gemini. He carved out a respectable career as a starter for several years and has proven to be a valuable backup. Ooh.
Who's this?
Valuable backup. He got hurt in 2 minutes in his first game for the Raiders. I'm offering some commentary. Whether that equates to quote unquote fine depends on your expectations for a former number 2 overall pick. Robby and I have high expectations for that. Joe, not so much. Some might see his longevity. I mean, he's still in the league because he's scrapping up paychecks, backing up superior players, and flashes of brilliance as evidence of being a fine player, while others, Robby and I, might focus on his lack of consistent high-end production and lost starting roles. This guy took his ball and went home in Atlanta when things didn't go his way. I mean, there's a guy you want to call fine.
By the way, he played quite well for part of that season. I'm just pointing it out. Like, he actually had some really good games as a starter.
And then, you know why he got that job?
He got hurt.
You know why he got that job? Arthur Smith didn't have a quarterback, and he knew him. That's it.
That's interesting, though, isn't it, that Arthur Smith, if he was complete buns, as you guys suggest, that Arthur Smith would tie anything of his career to that.
Had zero alternatives. You ask Arthur Smith how he feels about Marcus Mariota now.
Well,
Pretty quickly got fired after that, though, didn't he?
well, sure. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, I don't blame him for being upset with how Marcus handled that. He handled that poorly at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We can all
He
agree.
handled a lot of things poorly at the end of things. He's a really
Hey,
good finisher.
He's apparently on.
Walks out really nobly. Hey, Marcus, what are you going to do this last year? You know, you're going into the last year.
Is
You need a
nobly
new
a word?
contract. You're going into the last year of your Titans contract. Things have not gone particularly well. What are you going to change to really, you know, make the most of this 5th year? Oh, nothing.
Just keep it going.
That's my Marcus moment.
Just keeping it going.
Yeah, just going to do what I've always done, which has brought me great success.
He's apparently been.
That's what defined Marcus.
I think he sat down with
He's all right.
Lawan and Compton on Bussing with the Boys the other day.
Oh, he did. And
Yeah.
and to be honest, it was a very interesting thing because he was talking about sports psychology and just how beaten down he was and how stuff got to him. And it's sad anytime you hear about that. And you know, I'm the first guy to call somebody weak in a lot of circumstances. It's unfair to call him weak in that regard. If things mentally were getting to him, I'm sympathetic for that. Certainly after the fact when he shares stuff that's going on. But I think there's also a way to express when you're flailing that's part of it, or to let it out that's part of it. Because otherwise it compounds you're getting roasted.
So let me ask you this, Marcus haters. If Marcus would not have broken his leg in that game at Jacksonville, would things have turned out differently for him?
Maybe. No, I don't think that much. I think his makeup was not NFL quarterback makeup. I think the aloha spirit, I don't know that there's an NFL successful quarterback whose approach was aloha spirit. I don't think aloha spirit is.
There's a pretty wide range of personalities, especially I think now at quarterback in this league, don't you think?
There is, but I think you in that you need a certain moxie, and he did not have a certain
So
moxie.
you guys just forget that run where he talked all that trash to Barry Church, huh? We just forget about that. We just wiped that from memory. Okay, well it
It's a
happened.
good play.
It happened. I'm just saying, got him in the playoffs.
I mean, it's
Stiff arm.
it's one
Good stiff arm.
Yeah, it's one short snippet of a very long sample size, and the very long sample size did not include enough of that.
Well, it ended terribly. 2019 was bad. I mean, everything was bad, but he was bad. 2018, you know, he had the neck thing. I mean, that was weird. I don't know. I don't even remember how he played in 2018. I feel like he had some good games, but obviously he couldn't even play in the Colts game. But injuries are a big part of the story. You know?
Injuries
That's
are.
not an
Injuries
excuse.
were a huge
I mean,
part.
but that's a huge part of a lot of stories
Yeah.
that go.
Look,
Fine.
I repeatedly said for Marcus that I thought he had the skill set during his career, early part of his career, thought he had the skill set and the mindset to be if not a franchise quarterback, a winning quarterback in the league. And in the immortal words of Frank Wycheck, I was wrong on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, to answer your question, just the leg, would it have been different? I don't think so. I mean, that was 2016. He was his Titans quarterback for 3 more years after that. He had more injuries. Injuries have been a part of his story. And so I don't think it's as simple as it was just the broken leg that totally derailed him after that. His entire body kind of failed him after that.
Trevor says that Barry Church play has been redacted from my memory banks.
Nice.
Well done, Trevor.
Nice.
He was fine.
615-737-1025, our phone number. 2017. He's all right that year. 3 for 13 touchdowns, 15 picks. Good stuff.
Tough scene. Blame it on Terror Bisky.
Paul Kowarski with us the rest of the program. Got a lot of
That was certainly something that was out of Marcus's control that did not help.
It did not help. Did not help. A lot to get to on the Cam Ward front with PK. We'll do that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us for the next hour, talking all things Titans. We'll take your questions for PK on our text line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan addressing the media yesterday, PK. And they said in that session that they have come to a consensus as an organization. They are sticking at number one. And at this point, don't even bother making a phone call because they know what they're doing at number one. And we all know that's going to be Cam Ward. So
how silly is it? How silly is it, by the way, that they can't speak his name? Like,
I agree.
It's
TV show.
I think it's strictly a matter of the TV show and trying to abide by what the league wants. But you're tiptoeing around this thing. Hey, we know who it is, and you know who it is, and we're not taking any trade offers because we're so set on him. And our owner met him in Florida, and we're going to have the 33-minute press conference here, but we're never going to say his name.
What if they did? Like, what would the NFL? Like, what would the NFL do?
I don't know, but this team kowtows to the NFL historically. You know, it never does anything that the NFL wouldn't want it to do. So I mean, look,
almost sold to John Bon Jovi though.
It's
NFL
fun, according to Jason Lockheim for
your boy,
your Rexrode's guy.
Never met him before. I've seen you yell at him.
He's approached me like we'll fight as soon as you're off the radio, just for me citing the fact that he was wrong on 4 or 5 big Titans.
Yeah, there was that.
I did. I said it to the heart, and you're to blame.
Yeah, I said it earlier in the show that I didn't notice Callahan kind of catch himself yesterday. It was I think it was the Fortnite answer where he was talking about how like Ward knows his audience. He's like, "You're going to get to know Cam Ward." It's like, oh yeah, we are.
Someone who may like some video game.
You're going to get to know Cam
of some sort.
Knows his audience. I mean, knows his audience. He must think his audience is idiots if he thinks his audience thinks Tajay Spears is one of the best running backs in the league. Or Traylon Burks. If he thinks his audience thinks Traylon Burks is one of the best receivers in the league, he's got a lot of getting to know his audience to do.
So you wrote about this yesterday, and it's something that we talked about a lot to begin the show. They spent a lot of time at the press conference yesterday talking about staying true to their board and making sure that they're picking the best player available, and that's the process to go through with the draft, particularly when you have as many needs as they have. And they brought that up, I don't know, probably 10 times yesterday. And yet, they're going Cam Ward at number one here. So two things are possible here, PK. Either they are reaching on a quarterback at number one who they do not have ranked as the best overall player on the board, or they do have him ranked number one overall on their board, and they are very different from seemingly most of the rest of the league. So how do you view those?
Yeah,
two
which
things?
would make you question their judgment about rankings at the top of their board, or they've convinced themselves he's the top player.
Or maybe they're the smartest team in the league, and we just haven't figured it out yet.
I asked that question that got them started on that because I asked about the pull at 35 with the dire needs at edge and at receiver. And that got them started on the no, best player available, true to the board, all of that, which then, left that question that I wrote about. Well, you're really hammering the best player available thing, but is that what you're doing at one? Which is a completely fair question. Look, and a lot of people who are inclined to defend them say, well, you don't know that Ward's not number one on their board. Well, that's fine. And that it's only pundits and draft analysts who are saying he's not. It's not only pundits and draft analysts.
Right.
I mean, I've talked to 3 other teams who say Cam Ward is not close to number one on their board.
Real quick.
And not close to worth number one.
I'm going to interrupt and then let you get back to it. Anybody who does the draft, like Bruglers of the world and all the, like their stuff is informed by teams. It's not just their own evaluation.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
important for people to keep in mind.
And even somebody like me, who's not a draftnik, is talking to people with other teams very early. Said, hey, is Cam Ward a guy who's worthy of the number one pick? And I got very no. I don't know how that translates on text, but I get no.
Yeah.
A
A lot of O's. Was there a lot of O's?
Very expressive.
No!
Very expressive. Absolutely not. I think there's a pretty good consensus that Travis Hunter is the best football player in this draft, and that Abdul Carter is probably the second best football player in this draft. Now, and that others rank as better football players than Cam Ward. We know how this works. If you're a quarterback needy team at the top of the draft, you generally take the best quarterback at the top of the draft. And we also know the context that this quarterback being the best quarterback in this draft is nowhere as exciting prospect as other quarterbacks at the top of other drafts has been. And we also know the context about quarterbacks who looked better than Cam Ward coming out, not panning out as number one picks in drafts, in part because they weren't good enough, and in part because the team that has the number one pick in the draft often is not equipped to maximize that guy.
I think that's a big point to make. And this team certainly looks like a team that has the number one overall pick. They fit the bill. They absolutely fit the bill of a team with the number one overall pick. Okay, so let's say PK that maybe they'll say he's top on the board. I think nobody would believe them. But let's say they were different from other teams and they had him like the fifth or sixth guy. What's the acceptable quarterback bump?
What's the acceptable quarterback bump? I think the acceptable quarterback bump depends on who you're bumping him ahead of. So if Travis Hunter, and we only know what we know right now, but if Travis Hunter is what people believe Travis Hunter is, I think bumping Cam Ward ahead of Travis Hunter could prove like a really deadly move.
Goofy AF. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think Travis Hunter's a huge part of the answer there. How maybe the Titans don't think, maybe they also, that's part of their equation is that they don't think he's generational, the overused term. And they, they think he's, I hear some people say, well, he's really good at two positions, but he's not going to be great either. I disagree with that, but that's what some people say.
I keep going back to, though, like clearly something changed for them in this because look, the conversation after they got out of the combine was it felt like they were more open to trading out. And then it feels like, to me anyway, for like the last month and a half, it's Cam Ward. That's what it is. Well, so what shifted there? Obviously they met him, but I keep going back to like, you can meet him, you can talk to him, all those things. That's great. That never really changes the film. So what was your original evaluation on what the film was at that point?
Yeah, well, I think they probably liked the film, but I think that pro day and then the workout really put a capper on it. Now it's not supposed to like Borgonzi said at the combine, like only small moves from the board that we have set. And so we came back from the combine and we had a conversation here. So is Cam Ward fifth on their board going into the combine? Because the kind of only small move that they would make on anything that happens from there, we kind of agreed. A jump of 5 sounds like as big as it would get. So is he 5 off film going into the combine? And we said, I find it hard to believe. I think we agreed, the three of us, that we found it hard to believe he'd be 5 going into the combine. But this, if they're going to say he's 1 on their board, then he was at least 5 going into the combine.
I think it's a lot more. One, I do think the interview, we talked about this, but it's like the interviews, if those interviews help you make sense of the stuff you didn't like on film and make you feel like, okay, he gets it and this can be taken out of his game, that's a big part of it. But also, I just think this is way more talking themselves into this than this is any sort of math.
I agree. And that's what happens over and over and over.
Yeah.
You need it. He's got appeal. The good stuff on the film tends to overweigh the bad stuff on the film. The bad stuff on the film you tend to look at and say, oh, we can fix that. or like Callahan was talking about yesterday, some of that bad stuff on the film turns into good plays. And, maybe there's Patrick Mahomes stuff in there, and you've got all this time to talk yourself into it.
I got a text that pisses me off, man.
We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. PK with us for the rest of the hour, talking all things Tennessee Titans. Join me and 1025 The Game from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor in White House this Saturday for Kubota Orange Days. There'll be exclusive deals on compact tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more, with special financing also available. The sale runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. with demos, deals, giveaways, and lunch from 11 to 1. That's Coleman Tractor in White House, located at 3631 Highway 31 West this Saturday. I'll be out there. Come hang out with us. It's going to be a good time coming up on Saturday. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Rexrode had a text that apparently really made him angry.
Hold on, I'm jamming out some George Harrison. Good choice, Ian.
He's less angry now.
Part of the greatest band of all time. Okay, yeah, this text. And I've seen some of this, and we need to squash this. Says, y'all crap on Cam Ward every day. If he comes out and crushes it, are you going to come on every day and talk about how wrong you were? Two question marks.
Probably not.
Of course not. You won't have that same energy. Look, if you're excited, if you're a Titans fan, you're excited about Cam Ward, that's great. I mean, you're allowed to be. We are not crapping on Cam Ward. We're trying to talk about the reality of the situation. And if Cam Ward is great, you think that we're going to spin it that he's not great? That would be amazing for the city of Nashville.
What is this guy's name?
It's unnamed texter.
All right, unnamed texter. Let me try to teach you how this works. Today, we're going on today's information, right? If Cam Ward in his first 4 games is playing out of his mind, we'll go on that day's information.
Yeah.
See how that works? And we'll say, boy, I didn't see this coming when he got drafted because I had doubts about this, and this. We'll certainly mention it. I'm not going to go back and say, hey, before the draft, I loved Cam Ward. That would be a lie. And we're not in the business of lying. But this idea that like, if that Cam Ward being good in 2 years or a year or in 4 games proves us like changes what's happening right now, is false. Or like if a guy is bad, Will Levis is bad right now. If 2 years from now he's good for the Jacksonville Jaguars, it doesn't change the fact that on April 23rd, Will Levis's quarterback standing is poor. It doesn't change the history.
Yeah.
Right? There are reasonable questions about Cam Ward on April 23rd. Nothing he does later changes the reasonable questions about Cam Ward on April 23rd.
Look,
that's not real heavy logic.
I think
concentrate there.
I think Cam Ward is a first-round talented quarterback. I do have questions as to whether or not he's worth the number 1 overall pick. I don't think that's some crazy thing. And by the way, so does most of the rest of the NFL, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here. Let me make my position pretty clear.
I'd love to see him crush it.
I am actively rooting for him because, frankly, I am so tired of watching bad offensive football around here. I want Cam Ward to be great. So if he comes in and is great, I will stand and applaud. I am actively rooting for it. But I do think sometimes we go to too many extremes on this. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, these guys just think Cam Ward sucks, because they're not saying everything is going to be great all the time with this guy. That's not how this works. You can have a nuanced conversation about it. That's what we're trying to do.
And a lot of this market has shifted, right? I mean, some people loved Cam Ward from the beginning, but my sense is from the fans that I deal with, a lot of people had doubts about Cam Ward. And it seemed like the Titans maybe had some doubts about Cam Ward. As the Titans fell in love with Cam Ward, a lot of fans get hyped up, and this is the NFL draft cycle.
Sure.
They fall in love with the guy, and they're like, well, because they want him to be good, because they know he's going to be here, they fall in love with Cam Ward. And I think my thing is a little bit like, hey, there's no reason you have to go all the way. As with a lot of Titans things, the best thing to do is kind of tiptoe along and wait and see.
Yeah.
Instead of declaring him a Hall of Famer, take some time and watch. Instead of these huge waves and crashes, picture it more like the Gulf of Mexico, more flat water.
Well,
I thought that was the Gulf of America.
Yeah,
They got changed.
The Gulf of America?
Okay. That's not for me.
But here's another thing too. This is less important than whether or not he could play well. Like watch the guy get interviewed, the way he interacts with people. Like he's easy to like right. Like there's and that's pretty much to a person when they talk about Cam Ward. He's a pretty easy guy to like. So I think that factors into Titans fans as they've watched more about him. They said, I really like this guy. I think that factors into this too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, it's become apparent the Titans are all in. it makes sense for fans to embrace it and to look at, okay, what if it does work out? What are the chances it works out? And it could. He has the talent. There's enough good there where if you get rid of the bad and you can maximize the good, he can be really good. No question. But again, like these evaluations of him, we talked about them before we were certain that the Titans were drafted. Like that's what, like Paul said, they have seemingly shifted. And look, I still think that when it's all said and done, and I don't have any quarterback in this class where I feel great about them having a great NFL career. But I think when it's all said and done, Shedeur Sanders will end up having more NFL success than Cam Ward. If it doesn't happen, I will gladly admit I was wrong for the first time.
Yeah. Let's head back to our 1025 The Game
Unlikely.
phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in David to the program. David, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hi, thank you. Just real quick, I think the only reason one of the reasons that they're doing this is their general manager came from the Chiefs, as one of you already pointed out. And Patrick Mahomes, I think a lot of the questions about Cam Ward were the same questions that people were asking about Patrick Mahomes, and that's how he landed. He slid or whatever to the 10th pick or whatever it was that the Chiefs drafted him at. So I think I hope they're going to have the same plan for this quarterback that they're going to draft as they had for Mahomes, is that they need to sit him for a year.
They can't.
No,
they don't. That was a good team with a good quarterback that made the playoffs. This is a terrible team with no quarterback.
It
won't be anything like that.
Okay,
this idea of sitting.
I understand, but they risk just ruining him by doing that. That's just my opinion. But there you go.
If playing him early ruins him, then he wasn't the right guy. That's the fact of life in the NFL.
I mean, I'd love to have that
Daniels
situation.
played. Bo Nix played.
C.J. Stroud played.
Sure, it's an ideal world to sit a guy. But Steve McNair and Carson Palmer are the exception, and that's ancient history. And
especially now.
And that Mahomes got to do it was a fantastic plan. Jordan Love and what happens in Green Bay is a huge exception. What happens with highly drafted quarterbacks in the NFL is they come in and they play and they take their bumps and bruises, and that's part of the growing process.
Which Peyton Manning did too, by the way. Of course. He's another example of that.
And really struggled and took, record bad numbers.
Not that it's a big deal, but let's not revise history on that draft. Patrick Mahomes didn't slide. He was not considered like the top QB in that draft. He went about where people thought he would, or might go a little later than that.
Well, yeah, and also I do think there are some similarities in terms of like how they are as prospects, but I think the big thing with Mahomes was the offense he ran. Right? Is this offense that he's running in college going to actually translate to the NFL? You don't really have that concern with Cam Ward, but from the Louis Riddick doesn't help matters when he starts talking about, he's going to have the same impact as Patrick Mahomes. It's like, oh, really? Okay, that's a heck of a bar. Yeah. But the way that they play, there are some similarities.
And here's one
different
question.
Arm angle stuff.
Here's one question I have about Cam Ward that extends to Bo Nix and that extends to Michael Penix. And I talked to somebody yesterday that said, I hate NIL except for quarterbacks, because of what it's allowed these guys to do, where they transfer and they play a ton and come in with a ton of experience. Now, I think that does set them up for a chance at early success, and we've seen it with Nix, who played well right out of the gate and had a good rookie year, with Penix, who looked good when he got into the lineup after Cousins. But I do think that there's a chance that that defenses catch up to these guys and that they have an early burst where they look good and play better than you expect out of the gate. But that I am not certain that Bo Nix will be good in year two, or that Michael Penix, when he gets 16, 17 games in, turns it over and is good. I want to see them, or Cam Ward, whatever he does. I want to see them when they've gone through it for a cycle and defenses come back at them, if it's sustainable, or if it's merely, hey, I had a lot of college experience, and so this first round isn't as hard for me. But what's it like when I'm deeper into this thing.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More with Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. Coming up next, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away to see Stained and Breaking Benjamin at Bridgestone Arena this Sunday. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win some tickets to see Stained and Breaking Benjamin coming up on Bridgestone Arena this Sunday.
Anybody want to go with me to see Metallica?
When's that?
Next Thursday and Saturday.
I just don't understand how that's appealing.
I'm Paul. We don't like Metallica at Columbia
It has
University.
nothing to do with Columbia University. It's just not.
I only listen to New Order.
It's New Order. I don't understand how that's appealing either.
Was that your PK or was that your Borgonzi?
They're crossing the
Interchangeable?
streams now.
Yeah.
How are we crossing streams when he's from Boston? And I hate Boston. I think Boston's a wonderful city, except for the people who are there.
I'm taking
And
Cam
it's
Ward.
so
How
ridiculous.
you like those
Except for
apples,
each-
PK?
Except for each individual who resides there. I love Boston.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a text for you guys real quick. That
All
this attacks PK's bad take from earlier, which we've let him off the hook, Robby, too much on his bad take.
Okay.
Scott from Edisonville says, is there a way they keep Levis and let him start this year and let Ward sit and develop? See, even that
Question.
thought is
Is
part
why
of
they have to get rid of him? Because
Yeah.
this idiot wants that. So because
Don't call
there's a bad
Scott an idiot.
texter,
We love
Don't
you,
call
Scott.
Scott an idiot.
because there's a bad texter at the game, we have to shape our roster.
you
in
think
a certain way.
you think Scott's on some island here with this idea?
Because our community isn't up to snuff on how to form a football roster, we must make moves.
So, Paul, do you think it's not possible that in the very early going that Will Levis clearly outperforming Cam Ward, and so then they then what do you
Oh
do?
my God, we have a guy who's playing well. Let's get rid of him immediately.
Well, it doesn't necessarily
You're-
even have to
you're-
be
you're-
playing
you're-
well.
You're being so facetious right now. It's nauseating.
It just has to be like, what if he's better than Ward? Like, you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be well. Like,
Right.
what if he's just better than Ward? in
Exactly.
camp?
So,
I
like,
think if he's better than Ward, that's a good problem. Tell him he's the backup and he's sitting behind a guy with more promise who's the future and the face of the franchise. You sit over there and we'll call on you when you're needed. Continue to improve your game. You're a professional. We're your bosses. This is what you're assigned to do.
or Titans trade him. You stop having bad takes. That's another alternative.
Please don't talk takes. Like when you do that,
Have a take and don't suck.
you're
Paul.
letting Stillman like shape your show. Don't do that. You're better. You're
The
superior.
word take is a problem.
Yeah, because hot takes is what his whole thing is about. You have some opinions. You're
Oh,
doing some analysis.
So I can say opinion.
You report things.
You have
and
a bad
consider
opinion on
things.
this.
And having said all that,
I'm going to come in here. I got 16 hot takes I'm going to go over today. 2 of them are going to be right. The rest of them are going to be wrong. I'll never mention them again. But I'm going to burn them into your brain. It's going to form a lot of opinions. It's going to be dangerous for the community. I'm going to go back and we're going to revisit Mike Vrabel letting Terrell Williams coach that preseason game. I got 6 conspiracy theories about that. Obviously, the Titans still continue to repay the league by not mentioning that Cam Ward is the guy they're going to draft. They're not mentioning it as part of the Terrell Williams conspiracy. Back after this.
I'm going now say you suck. Everyone sucks. Goo goo gaga. Suck, suck, suck.
You're like a wind-up doll. Can't stop you. Stop the voice box.
so after saying all that, Will Levis probably going to get traded or released, huh? He's probably not going to be on the roster by the time camp comes around, is my guess.
It seems like that's the direction they would like to go.
Are you going to throw a fit when they?
I'm
when
not
they
going to
move
throw a
him?
fit, but when Brandon Allen comes on and does nothing, I'm going to say, I know a guy with a pretty good arm who might have completed that pass.
He also might have arm punted it to the long snapper on the sideline. but yeah.
Agree. I don't think Will Levis is great. I think he's got some potential upside that we'll see at some point. I think Brandon Allen is what Brandon Allen is. And we know that's not good. And don't get me started on Boyle.
Yeah, we don't need. Yeah,
I
we
don't think if Boyle sees the field for them in anything other than a preseason game, they're in some serious trouble.
If people pay cash money to go to a preseason game and are forced to see Tim Boyle, that is a crime against the city of Nashville.
So there are a few questions that
Shout out to Tim.
Yes, yeah, we love you, Tim. There are a few questions along the lines of is this whole thing of their shift and their no way, don't talk to us, don't touch my coffee. Is that about Amy? Is that about Amy saying, I love him? And then that's, they're just going with what the owner says.
I can't imagine that is the case. If she has receded on all of these levels, if she is Homer Simpson disappearing into the bush, then why would she meddle in what they're doing? All indications are that she has empowered Burke Nihill's word and Chad Brinker's word. She's empowered Burke on the business side. She's empowered Brinker on the football side. Why would she empower these two people and then meddle on the biggest decision that's being made in terms of the football direction of the team? If she's doing that, it's even worse than our worst imaginations of what's going on over there.
Can I tell you one thing from the press conference yesterday that just really bugged me? It was when Brinker started going on and he was talking about how, these guys don't even know this. These guys don't even know. But one day I was looking around the room and I looked over there at Borkanzi and then Reggie and Dave and all these guys. And we got 9 Super Bowls between all of us. Coach too. Coach has won a Super Bowl in there. It's like, I do not care about any of that. I don't. Like, if I'm a Titans fan, I want you to stop talking about all that random crap. Show me you could go out and make some picks and stop worrying about what you guys have done in the past. I do not care about that if I'm a Titans fan.
And I think it was kind of out of character for what they're trying to do. They're trying not to celebrate anything. That's a conscious effort I know they're making. And so I think that was almost kind of a slip.
It just drove me. It really bothered me when he said that. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But I heard that and I was like, oh God, I don't care. I don't care about what you guys have done at previous stops in different roles with another organization. Let's go draft.
You are fired up today on multiple fronts, and I like it.
I am. I need the draft to get it. We're almost there.
We are.
Give us some hot takes, Robby.
Can't say take.
That's
we can't do that.
Can't say take.
Well, that's what Rexrode wants to turn this great show into.
Here's your hot take. The Titans are going running back, whether it's Cam Scadabo or somebody else, and Tajay Spears ain't going to be here by the time camp opens up.
That's big. Cam Scadabo is going to break in the NFL.
You think so?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's gonna send Rexrode over the edge.
That take sucks. What a sucky take.
He's gonna get beat up.
Have you seen that guy? He's gonna do the beating up. Oh, I cannot wait for this.
But I do think I tell me if I'm wrong, PK.
They want to avoid injuries. Bring in a guy that begs for them.
They started talking about running back yesterday too, and then Callahan went on this thing. But I think it's very important to have 3 running backs nowadays. It's like, okay, well, we'll see how important that actually is. I think they're drafting one. I think they're coming out of this draft with another running back, and I do not think that is good news for Tajay Spears. And I feel like PK, as we've kind of gone through this and they've gone to their 30 visits, you were totally out on that idea before, and I think everybody feels like it's happening now.
Oh, I do as well. I sure hope still, 2nd, 4th round or a 5th round. Let's not get carried away.
If they're going to get Scadaboo, they got to get into the 3rd.
Yeah,
probably.
Well,
that's why they got to get into the 3rd.
Here's a vote.
I don't care who's
into the 3rd.
I don't care who's there at 35. You got to get into the 3rd. What an interesting, but seriously, like if you did that swap, let's say it was Scadaboo, because they also had Jordan James in, who's also like a power back, really, right? What an interesting switch from Spears, really, who's just a 3rd down back, to super power guy to go with, the overall kind of balance, but still a powerful run on power. That's a
thunder and lightning. You get back to that.
Yeah, there you go. Some people would be like, that's going backward in football, but running the ball always works.
I also, I'm less concerned with Tony Pollard's workload than they are. Like, use them up.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, Callahan was talking about that philosophy yesterday, and he said, there are obviously some running backs around the league that can handle that and can be the guy. But he basically was just like, it's that approach we think pays dividends of, splitting the workload up and being as fresh as possible for as long as possible, I think is the way he phrased it. I think that's clearly something that they're shifting to as a philosophy.
Look, if they get a good 3rd back here, he's going to become the 2nd back. Spears is redundant. Pollard is better at what Spears does than Spears. And Spears, to me, becomes I don't want to say a gadget guy, but you throw him out there a couple times to throw to him. Spears is good if you could get him in space as a receiver. Outside of that, I'm not really interested in seeing him take snaps.
Right, but so then you bring in a Scatterboo, and I think he can do everything, by the way. But
Then
you
he's your
you have
second back.
reduced, but you've really reduced your pass catching element from that position, which is interesting.
Well, you just said Scatterboo can do everything.
Well, he can.
This back,
you
this
gotta
big,
hand him the ball 20 times.
this big quote unquote big back. By big back, I'm saying a guy who can run effectively between the tackles,
right,
and take a little bit of the pounding off of Pollard, needs to pass protect and catch. And if you get that guy, then Spears is completely minimized. I don't think he's off the roster, but I think he's minimized.
We'll have more with PK coming next. Your final questions for PK before the NFL draft, which is tomorrow. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Paul Kuharski with us here on the program. One day before the NFL draft, Joe, we did have a texter pass this along from Charles Robinson at Yahoo Sports. Talking about Cam Scadaboo, says there are some ice cold assessments on him. Landing as a thud is a late 4th/early 5th round grade. After Scadaboo got a lot of votes for this year's all juice team, really thought he'd have a higher profile among teams and possibly get himself into solid 3rd round range. Now I'm not so sure. This from Charles Robinson.
Well, then don't blow it, Titans. That brings up something I'd like to read to you too.
Okay.
This is in Diana Rossini had a really interesting piece. A lot of things she's hearing here as the draft gets close. Last line, final words of wisdom. As you're getting ready to watch the draft and feel good about what your team is going to do based on needs and options, I'll share with you what a Super Bowl winning coach once told me. Quote, don't ever discount that there are dumbass teams, end quote.
Oh, there's that.
The ones who think Scadaboo is not going to be a superstar in this league, case in point.
Thank you.
Just like Rondale Moore.
PK, one other takeaway I had yesterday was I think the Titans have got a list of who it could be there at 35 that they'd be willing to take, and others who, if they're not there, trying to trade back. I as we sit here today, a couple days before the round number 2 of the draft, I'm probably on team trade back. Like, I'd like to see them trade back and pick up some picks. However, I recognize that if like a Luther Burden or Egbuka or whoever is there, that'd be awfully hard to pass up at that point. Where do you come down on that as we sit here today, a couple days before the draft?
I mean, this is purely gut feeling, but I just feel like it's more and more likely that there's going to be somebody there that they find hard to pass up in terms of being a talent that they feel like can really help them. And, you need the right trade to get out of there and go down the right range. The one thing I think that could help them if they want to make a trade is if there's a rush on one or the other, so I think McShay said he thinks there's going to be a real run on edges, so if there's a run on edges late first, and that leaves you 3 receivers that you really like at 35, and you say, well, we can go back 7 spots based on the needs of the teams behind us, and we're going to be assured that one of those 3 receivers is there, and we can find the right deal. Well, that's a favorable scenario for moving back.
And the run that should be happening around there could definitely be the QB run. That's where teams might want to get into those spots on a QB run.
Yep.
So get the QBs, get the QBs and the edges going. If there could be runs there that help one of your positions stay pretty much intact, that would help you maybe be able to trade back and still get one of your guys.
See, to me,
I do think they like a lot of the receivers. Like, I don't think my sense isn't that they've got, outside of, I think Egbuka is the kind of guy that would make him stay at 35. I have to think.
I agree.
To me, it's like you talk, like we're talking about what they said yesterday, going by the board. Now they're going to do Cam Ward. I mean, again, go back to like the Brinker comments about the top 100 picks. And so you had opportunities to try to do things like that, obviously with the number 1 pick, but even here too, to me, like if you have an opportunity, you better really, really love that prospect to not take the opportunity.
Well, that gets into how much different is whoever's there at 35, how much better or do you have them graded than who would be there at 46 or 50 or wherever?
And the overall league, consensus would suggest it's not that big of a difference, right?
The overall league consensus also suggests that Cam Ward may not be worth number 1 pick.
There is that too.
Well, you got
stop crapping on Cam Ward.
You got to carve that out. I mean, the way they talked, you got to carve that out and keep that separate from everything else. And then the league consensus seems to be like 15 to 80 is kind of a similar pool.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, wouldn't you rather have 2 picks in that pool than 1?
I would.
No question.
This roster certainly would.
You'd like 4 or 6.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But good luck with that.
Any sort of sense that they could be open to moving Jeffrey Simmons? It did not sound like the Titans are considering making moves with their veteran rosters as of what Borgonzi had to say yesterday.
Yeah, and I checked in with a couple league people. Now, this is a couple days ago already, but they had no sense that Simmons was on the market. Now, I don't know that you'd be putting that out there that early. That's more likely something that would come to surface during the draft. But also, a 1-for-1 for me, even if you're getting and somebody told me he's worth a second or a third. Well, if you're trading Jeffrey Simmons for a third, you may not be using the third to replace him. You may be using one of the fourths, but still, it's a 1-for-1. You're not really adding anything. Now, you may be able to use the third on a different position and use the fourth on a defensive tackle, because defensive tackle's pretty loaded in this draft. But I'd want to be able to get 2 picks for him. If you get 2 picks for him, then you can add an additional player. And still, I think people get too hyped at this stage. This would be a big parting theme for me. You get too hyped. They've got 8 picks, and you think, well, they got 8 picks. They're going to address 8 needs. 2 4th-rounders and 2 5th-rounders. If you get 1 starter out of those 4 picks, you're doing pretty well. Or 2 big contributors, you're doing pretty well. If you're putting down 4 starters for 2 4ths and 2 5ths, you're going to be really disappointed as a fan.
I would agree.
Sweet takes today, bro.
PK,
thanks.
Thank you for being with us. Enjoy the draft tomorrow.
Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks.
Jason Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.